Welcome to Crafty Chemist Designs. Today I have a great project for you. But first, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so that you are alerted every time I drop a new video. On to the project. Today I am going to show you how to make this flip flap shutter card. Isn't this amazing? I saw this on Hobby Maker TV when we were in England. A lady made a card like this. She made it, it was bigger. It was more like maybe 6 by 8. But I knew when I saw it that I wanted to use the gallery paper and recreate this because I love how it looks like a painting. And then you open it up, it looks like a different painting. I just love that. And when I saw these gallery papers, I knew that whatever project that I did with them, I really wanted to keep the integrity of the picture intact because I love them so much. So here is the gallery, beautiful gallery paper. It's 6 by 6, and the images are so amazing. It really does look like you are in an art gallery looking at these pictures. So let me show you. Here's one, here's the back side, and you get 4 of each of these. So this is the one that I used here, and you can see I really tried to keep the integrity of the picture. And most of them had this really nice backside. I made a really cool card with this that maybe I'll show later. The backside is just more subdued. I love these kind of grunged up colors. Like they really look like the base canvas. So this is what I used on the backside here. And I focused in on this. This is fun. This would be really cute on a scrapbook page. Some still life. And then this, oh, I love this botanical. Okay. So like I said, you get 4 of each one. And they are just, all of them are absolutely amazing. I think for this project, I'm going to try and use different ones. I'm going to use this because I love this. And then I think maybe that one for the reverse because it kind of feels like winter and summer to me. So I'm going to try and use these two. Okay, I made my card 5 by 7, so 5 by 7. It will fit into, you know, a regular 5 by 7 envelope. I made it a little bit bigger than an A2 size card because I really wanted to show as much of this paper as possible, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is cut out some 5 by 7 paper. And you can see here I used some country wood paper. And here, country wood paper, to simulate a frame on in a gallery. Okay, so I am going to use the country wood paper again. Country Woods is let's see, 163393, and it is in the new catalog. They carried it over. But what you might not be able to tell is actually there are 2 pieces of paper. There's a cardstock and then the pattern paper. So if you can see here, I've got espresso on the back and then the wood on the front. Because you do need a little bit more heft with this. I mean, really, I think this frame could even use maybe a 3rd layer. So if you're concerned about that, I would maybe layer 2 pieces of cardstock and then the pattern paper on top. Okay, so I am going to use espresso. And this is espresso from Close to My Heart, because I am trying to use up all of my Close to My Heart paper, and I only had 2 sheets of espresso left. So, because I went crazy on the Stampin' Up! Two-tone cardstock sale, and so now I need to find places for all of my two-tone cardstock in my cardstock shelf. So I'm trying to use up my Close to My Heart paper. Okay, so I'm cutting 2 that are 5 by 7 of cardstock. And you don't see this much, right? You can't see it at the top here at all. You can see it on the backs. That's about it. So it doesn't really matter. And then you can't really see, but the 3 shutters inside are also the espresso. Okay. And so you need to cut these at 2.5 inches. And then 5 inches. And you need 3 of them. So let's hope this is 2.5. Let's see. Yeah, 2.5, and then 5. So you can get all of the pieces that you need out of 1 sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock. Okay, now I'm going to cut my pattern paper that I'm going to sort of laminate on top of the cardstock. And I want mine to go this way landscape, because you can see the grain of the wood goes this way. But, you know, you can do it how you want. So I'm going to cut this at 7 inches by 5 inches. And you need 2 of these. Okay. Here's our 2 pieces here. Okay, now let's layer our cardstock and the pattern paper. So remember that one of these you are going to be cutting a 1/4 inch frame. And so you want to make sure, not a 1/4 inch frame, a 1/2 inch frame. You want to make sure that you put the adhesive, you know, around the outside, so that when you cut the frame, you still have, oops, you still have the adhesive on it. This espresso is hard to see on this black. There we go. Okay, so here's one. And this is the one I think I'm going to use for the frame, because I like the wood grain on that a little bit better. So, okay, let's line this up. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is going to be my base. So this piece here, and then this one's going to be, whoops, this one's going to be my frame. So let's gut this and cut a 1/2 inch piece. So what I'm going to do is line up the edge on the 1/2 inch mark to the right, and then place my cutter at the 1/2 inch down, line it up, and then go down to the 1/2 inch mark here. Okay, and then make sure that that's cut all the way through, because it is 2 layers, and I found that sometimes you have to go over it again. Okay, and so Again, lining it up on the 1/2 inch mark, going down to the 1/2 inch mark, the bottom, 1/2 inch from the bottom, making sure that's cut all the way through. Now the corners are fine because you can clip those. Okay, starting at the 1/2 inch mark. Where is it here? Okay, there we go. Going down 1/2 inch from the bottom, which here is like 6.5. Make sure it's cut. Oh, okay. And then last one, 1/2 inch. Okay. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and snip these corners the best I can. It's better to not go as far than to overshoot it and have, you know, a line in there. Okay, I did pretty good. I only had to clip one corner. Okay, so now I have the frame and the backing. And then these two pieces, you know, you can use for something else. Okay, let's talk about making the shutter pieces. So this was 2.5 by 5. And why is it like that? Well, these pieces are each 2 inches because remember, this paper was 6 by 6. So this is 2 inches and it's actually 4 inches tall. Okay, and then we have the 1/2 inch border, which is this, you know, to fit in here to hold it together. That's what holds it together. Okay, so that's why it's cut like that. So if you are trying to make a different size, you can kind of use that as a guide. Okay, so I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch down on each side, flip it 180, and then a 1/2 inch here. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And if your cardstock is two-tone like mine is, make sure you're doing it on the side that you want. I mean, you can change it, but the score lines will be kind of, you know, backwards. It won't be indented, it'll be raised. Okay, and then you also need to mark a 1/2 inch on this side, but we're only going to mark a 1/2 inch in this area, not in the center. I mean, we're going to cover it up, so I guess it doesn't really make a big difference, but okay, so 1/2 inch all the way down, 1/2 inch all the way down, 1/2 inch all the way across, and then 1/2 inch marks there on the sides. Okay, let's do the same thing for the other two pieces. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then on this part only go partially. Okay, and then one more. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then these ones are just 1/2 inch down. I don't feel comfortable doing that, so I'm going to turn it around. Okay. Okay, so can you see these? Let me show you one, see if you can get it up close. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then this one only goes that all the way through. If you want to, do it 1/2 inch all the way around, and we're going to cover this part up, so it doesn't matter. Okay, the next thing you're going to need to do is cut out this 1/2 inch section. Okay. And you want to cut it so that you really don't see the score line. Okay, so let's see if I can trim this up a little bit. Okay, let's do the other pieces. Okay, good. Two down. One more. Okay, and now you want to snip this part. You don't want to cut it off, but you want to snip here to make this kind of a flange. Same thing here. So that little section where you just scored the 1/2 inch, you want to snip along there to the score line on both sides. The last one. Okay, now one thing I learned from making my sample is that on here, you could kind of see that if it's not perfectly a 1/2 inch, you can kind of see that. So I am going to just ever so slightly snip the edge like this. Okay. So that, because I had to go back and trim it because you could see kind of through the top. I don't know if you can tell, but I did go back through and trim that. So this is my second go around, so learn from, you know, from me. And let's just trim this a little bit so it doesn't pop through. You don't want to cut off too much though, because really this is the only thing that's holding the card together. Okay, because if you look, the only thing that's held together is, you know, it's only held by these 6 pieces here. And then obviously on this side too. So, okay. Something else that I learned is, I don't know, you can see here, it kind of overlaps a little bit, and you know, down at the bottom, it can get stuck. So I was thinking about trimming this and this at the end. So we'll see how it is. Okay, but this section is 2 inches. Okay, and so we're going to take our paper, whatever paper you want to put on here, and cut it into 2-inch strips, and they are 4 inches tall. Okay, so this strip is 2 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to take this and trim it at 4 inches. And I'm actually going to maybe give it 1/16 or maybe an 1/8. Let's do it maybe an 1/8. So let's really make it 3 7/8 so that we can trim the other part a little bit. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So I cut this at 3 7/8. This one is cut exactly at 4 inches, so you can see it perfectly fits the frame. If you're worried about how it's going to flip in and out, I would cut it at 3 7/8, and we'll see how it is. I'm just testing this. Okay, and then we're going to cut each of these into 2 pieces. And depending on what, paper you're using, you want to try and keep them in order. Okay, if it matters. If you're just using pattern paper or whatever and it doesn't matter, then that's okay. Okay, now let's cut this one at 3 7/8. Let's see, I want to keep this tree and then maybe trim the bottom. So I'm going to try and kind of fussy cut around that. So 3 7/8, but you want your thing to be 3 7/8. Okay, there we go. So I wanted that whole tree. And now cut these into 2-inch pieces. Okay. And then I'm going to keep these in order. And now we're going to add these on to here. There we go. So let's adhere that. Okay, this is the very left-hand side. And I'm going to center it in here. Okay. Now on the back side, we're going to put this one. And yes, it's the very left-hand side. Okay. You want the left-hand side pieces from both pictures. And I'm going to center this. Okay, so we got that one done. Now let's do this one. Center it on here. Okay, flip it over and put the middle piece on here. Center it on there. Make sure it's straight. There we go. Okay, and then this one. This is the far right piece. Oh, and I wish I had put the other one on the front because that's my favorite. But that's okay. And you want to make sure they're right side up. Okay. And on the back side, I really like this print too. I'm okay with it on the front, but the other one, the back, this side, this is just so unique. It's a unique picture that I really loved it. Okay. Oh, that was a little bit too high. There we go. Okay, and there you have the 3 pieces. Now, if you remember, I cut these at 4 7/8 to leave a little bit of room. So if you want to trim off the very, the very tips of it, I did it that way so I wouldn't have to cut off any of the picture. Okay. But truthfully, there's not that much. It's not that much to trim. I really don't want that white core showing through. Okay. Okay, now let's start to assemble. So you take your backing piece. This is the piece that's the true 5x7. And then we are going to, you want to kind of use your bone folder to score this. And this is what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that it's kind of straight so that it won't poke through. So I'm going to score, and you can do both sides at the same time. There we go. These ones are good. You really don't want it to come down into the picture because then you'll be able to see it. Let's do this one. Make sure that they're all good and burnished because you want it to be able to open and close really nicely. See this one. This piece concerns me a little bit, so let's just trim that edge off there. Okay. Just trying to get some of that white core out of there. Okay, so these are fine. Make sure you got it right side up. And then the last one. Okay. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so take your leftmost side, and we are going to put some Tombow green glue, just a dab in the center, not too much, because you don't want it to ooze out and then have your mechanism stick, okay? Because this part has to freely flow, right? Because if we look at the sample, you see this part can't be stuck down to anything, so you definitely don't want it to get stuck. And then we're going to just line it up in the corner. Okay. Okay. Okay, now do the middle piece. Flip this back. Put a dot of glue in the center. Okay, and then what you want is you want these pieces to match up, and so you're going to stick this down. Okay, now see how that oozed out? You don't want that. Okay, we're not gluing this side. Okay, and then make sure that these basically, line up. Okay. Have a slight gap between the two. Okay, now let's do this last one. Put Put a dot here and here. And then we're going to, basically line these up where you want it. I'm going to flip this over and then put this down. Make sure that it's, lined up with the top. Okay. So again, make sure these all are going to be able to flip up, but give it a little bit of time to dry. And then make sure you like how it's lined up here. Okay. Okay, and now the final step is to put the top layer on. And to do this, we are going to push all of these tabs back and put a dot on those of the Tombow glue. Okay. And now get this how you want and stick it down. Line it up. Do this before it dries. And then push down a little bit on where these tabs are so that it stays, or you could put something heavy on it. And this is where you kind of want to make sure that you're not seeing any of those tabs. Okay, oh, this one is not staying. Okay, there we go. Okay, so make sure that it looks good on both directions. So there you go. Okay, I'm gonna let it sit there so it can dry. I did see that it opened and closed. Okay, so here you have the final product. You can stamp it if you want to say happy birthday or whatever. You can stamp something here. I would put, maybe a piece of white. Also, I put the pattern paper on the base of the card, but you could also cut pieces and stick them in here. They would be, I think, about 2-inch pieces. If you are concerned about covering up the tabs there, I don't particularly care about it, but if it bothers you, you can go ahead and not put the pattern paper here, but cut strips and put them to cover up the tabs. Okay, so here are my flip flap shutter cards. I want to show you a couple other cards that I made with the gallery paper. It's just a simple one. Like I said, I really was trying to make cards that left the beauty of this paper intact. So here's one. Here's another one. Really, this paper, you don't need much else. It's that same paper there. This is one that I made using some nesting dies that, I don't know if you can tell, but they're popped up. This is on the paper. This is popped up with one sheet of foam tape, and then this has got 2. Here's one. You can tell these are my favorite because I made, I've used them a lot. That's that same paper. And then look at this one, how beautiful and simple. This is that botanical print with a little bit of a satin bow. I hope you enjoyed the project. The products seen in the video can be purchased at my website, thecraftychemist.stampinup.net. I have a Facebook group, Crafty Chemist Designs, where I go live and do demos every Sunday. I also have a Facebook VIP group, The Crafty Chemist Presents Stampin' Up. Find me on Instagram at Crafty Chemist Designs, TikTok at Crafty Chemist Designs, YouTube at Crafty Chemist Designs, and my blog, periodicallycrafty.blogspot.com.